It is a pleasure and an honor here to be among this very distinguished panel of CSR practitioners. Some of them have served society with great passion, great diligence, and have been acclaimed across the entire world. Today, we are going to look at profit with purpose. And in fact, if you look back, the CSR law, section 135, is exactly that. You must earn profits, and if you are profitable, then you are required to spend a part of those profits purposefully. And by purpose, obviously, we mean a social purpose, to serve community and the society at large. The way I want to take this session is that I would like to address a couple of questions to each of my panelists. And these questions in the first round would be purely generic in nature. I believe that each one of the panelists sitting here today with me are far more than the organization that they represent. As human beings, as people who understand how corporates, NGOs can serve communities and society. In the first round, I would like them to talk about what they feel as individuals, as human beings, away from the company that they represent. And the questions that I'm going to ask them is, what do you feel companies should do for society? Secondly, what should or what do NGOs, civil society sector, how can they serve the community? And the third would be, for CSR activities, how can they be aligned to ESG and to the Sustainable Development Goals? I know for each one of you, it's difficult to take yourselves away from the company you represent, but I want to hear the voice of your conscience, the voice of your heart, and to hear all of us sitting in the audience, we'd enjoy that a lot. So, Chaudhary Sahab, आप कारपेट इंडस्ट्री के भगवान माने जाते हैं. आपने समाज सेवा इतना किया है और पूरे जीवन आपने किया है कि आपसे शायद ये प्रश्न जो मैं पूछ रहा हूँ, इतना आप बोल सकते हैं कि हम घंटे यहाँ बैठकर आपकी वाणी को हम सुन सकते हैं. फिर भी दो चार शब्दों में अगर आप वर्णन करें कि सामाजिक संस्थाएं जो हैं, ये गरीबों के लिए, पिछड़ों के लिए क्या कर सकती हैं, क्या करना चाहिए, थोड़ा हमें बताएं.
देखिए, जो सामाजिक संस्थाएं हैं, कोई भी संस्था हो, वो पर्पस ड्रिवन होनी चाहिए. कि इफ यू डोंट नो हु आर यू एंड इफ यू डोंट नो व्हाई यू एग्जिस्ट, देयर इज नो पॉइंट हैविंग द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एट ऑल. तो जो सामाजिक संस्थाएं हैं, वे केवल सर्विस प्रोवाइडर नहीं होके जो समाज की समस्याएं हैं उनको गहराई से समझें और उनका समाधान उन्हीं लोगों से निकलवाएं जिनकी वो समस्याएं हैं. अभी इन संस्थाओं को जो ज़्यादातर ध्यान है वो नंबर्स पर और अपने फंडर्स के लिए ऐसी रिपोर्ट बनाना कि जिससे फंडर खुश रहे, उस पे ज़्यादा है. जबकि उन संस्थाओं का ध्यान जो समाज के लोग हैं, उनकी लाइफ में क्या ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन हुआ, उनके सोच में क्या बदलाव आया, उनकी आदतों में क्या बदलाव आया. और एक ये सारी संस्थाएं ग्रास रूट के लोगों को एक इंसान के रूप में देखें. हर इंसान के अंदर कैपेबिलिटी होती है, क्रिएटिविटी होती है और विजडम होती है. तो वो कैपेबिलिटी, विजडम और क्रिएटिविटी को जो कस्टमर की नीड्स है, उस नीड्स से जोड़ के एक प्रॉफिटेबल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बनाएं। लास्ट में अपनी बात बंद करने से पहले मैं लाओत्से का एक कोटेशन बताना चाहूँगा कि गो टू द पीपल, लिव विद देम, स्टार्ट व्हाट दे नो, बिल्ड व्हाट दे हैव, एंड व्हेन द वर्क इज accomplished, people say we have done ourselves.
धन्यवाद, बहुत अच्छा बोला आपने. Let me turn to my next panelist, Mr. Rastogi. I heard you speaking in the session before this and how much of a business professional you have been all your life. But now turning to the foundation work, how much it has changed you as a personality, as a human being, and how you have had occasion to look into your deeper and inner self and bring a change into your personal life. So thus these three questions very quickly, leaving your company aside as an individual. What can companies do or should do? What can civil society can do or should do? And in a sense, how can we align CSR with the SDGs and the new concept of ESG? Very quickly, if you could.
Thank you for the question, sir. I think responding to the first question, a lot of enterprises in India, even before the CSR regulation came in, a lot of enterprises in India were anyway doing, work for the society through philanthropy, through their, through their personal charities, through their personal foundations. Thanks to Dr. Chatterjee, I think after this framework came in, there has been, these efforts have got channelized into, into directions, because of professionalism coming into the field, people who understood, people who were either from the civil society or from the NGOs or anyone, people who were connected to the ground, people who knew, where are the gaps, what is required to be done there. So once this got connected, then I think a proper allocation of resources from the proper allocation of profits from the corporate sector to the social sector, that's something which took place. So there is no question or no doubt, the companies are part of the society that we operate in. We live as people, as people we have dual roles. We also work for the company. We are also part of the society. In the same society that we want to benefit, we are also there. So these two, my own belief is that the corporate progress is not possible unless the society around prospers, unless, consumers prosper, unless the nation prospers. So the entire social responsibility is an integral part of business. As you also mentioned that, I was not a hardcore CSR professional, but my perspective also changed, when I also started looking at the CSR activities apart from the business. Some of this has also led to realignment of our business strategies. Okay, I would not like to go into the details of that, but the way we operate our business, way we organize our business has also undergone a change because of, as we got involved into this. In terms of sir, the role of the civil societies, see, one of the pain points which has been is there that today morning also we saw the report. I think where, if I remember the figure correctly, it said 41%. The companies said that, because of there were large unspent CSR funds. So, this is something which has been a pain point with us also, that year after year, we are not able to spend our money completely. We have to carry over funds. We have to find projects. So this is where I think the civil society has to come in, connect more with corporates through events like these. Frankly, before this, I also did not know how to connect with the civil societies, with the organizations, so that the entire profit pool which is available is meaningfully utilized, is I mean, I personally hate carrying forward unspent CSR funds. You know, apart from explaining to the government and to the stock markets, you know, it's also a personal pain point, you know, that the money that you have set aside for, you know, for good of the society, that remaining a spare is not, you know, is not worthwhile at all. So I think that's where the role of the civil society comes in.
Right.
And, you know, finally on the ESGs, see, the way I look at it, that now overall CSR is a part of, ESG is a much larger all-encompassing framework. So the CSR has to become a part of, you know, overall ESG framework. And within this framework, I think CSR activities have to grow to, you know, encompass this entire range of whatever ESG is trying to do. So that's my, you know, personal view on this. Yeah, thank you.
Very well put, Rastogi Saab. Brilliant. Can I turn to you, Chander, now with the very same 3 points?
Absolutely, sir. So, first of all, it's good to see so many people. And when Dr. Chatterjee talked about humanizing, I think, you know, and Mr. Chaudhary also touched upon the sense of purpose. So, all right, now it's back. So, when I talk about an organization, you know, in its a simple definition, it is nothing but a group of humans coming together with a sense of purpose to achieve certain business goals, right? Now, when I look at this truly from a CSR angle, you know, there is a point of you thinking, you know, that the sense of purpose is to achieve business goals. At the same level, also think about how you're going to contribute into the society that you are. Because I think as humans, and all of us, you know, multicultural, you know, we could be across locations, each of us are ingrained with certain values, right? Ethos, which talks about, you know, I need to do more, I need to have empathy, you know, I need to, you know, help the larger society in general. As humans, you know, in our culture, we kind of weave into this. So when you bring bunch of us together, I think that sense of purpose starts to, you know, to form and use that sense of purpose to drive the goals of the organization, both from an angle of profit and as well as from the angle of looking at it from a community, right? I think this is a good forum for us to think of where we are all, you know, have a sense of purpose to contribute or do, you know, elevate the levels of CSR that we are doing. So that's how I look at, you know, the purpose of an organization. Now, I think the second part of the question Dr. Chatterjee asked was around how do we see the civil service organizations and potentially the NGOs as well, right? And I think each of us carry a skill or a trade, and we are good at certain things. So in my role, I am a Chief Technology Officer. My primary purpose is technology. So I'm good at that. But then, when you look at these organizations, they are the catalyst that can work with organizations, big or small, and with the grassroots, right? And I think some of the previous panel conversations that happened, it all talks about that, right? And this is that chain that we need to bring together. And I see the civil service organizations playing this brilliantly for us. And we need that catalyst for us to be successful. And I think the third part, and this is probably the point where some of you may be thinking, you know, as a CTO, how is your relationship to CSR? You know, it will be very interesting to, you know, when I talk about it, you know, we had the, you know, at point where, in fact, I think the IPCC, when it, you know, looked at the ICT as an industry, 14% of the global emissions is actually from the, you know, from the computer industry. And not to mention, right, a lot of people associate travel, logistics, you know, manufacturing as the big GHGs, but even ICT is. So in the role that I play, I think it's important for us to look at ESG and associate this back to saying, how do I reduce my carbon footprint? And it's not the traditional things of, you know, let me take away plastics or, you know, let me reduce, you know, certain things, right? It's also in terms of the technology adoptions. Like, you know, if from the traditional big boxes that we used to have, we moved to cloud, and from cloud now we are moving into completely serverless and so on and so forth. Each one of the optimizations that we do helps on the profitability. At the same time, it also helps the ESG dimensions. So that's how I see the synergy for industries in adoption of ESGs. Driving sustainability is something that I see through the power of technology, we can drive this very effectively. So hopefully, sir, that kind of gives a sense around the three dimensions that we were talking about.
Great, Chander. That was wonderful. Can I now turn to you, Kiran? Your personal thoughts on the three questions that I asked. What can companies do? What can NGOs do?
Right.
And what do we do about SDGs and ESG? How can we align CSR efforts with them?
Well, good afternoon, and it's nice to be here, present here with seeing a lot of energy that's there. If you really look at a company, I think the last 2014 to now, around 8 years, we have matured from stage 1 to stage 4. Stage 1 was how do I do the expenditure. It was never about what work I will do, but it was about how do I spend that money so that I take care of the mandate. The second stage came wherein we started looking at what kind of project should we get involved. Who are the partners? Because that was major issue. Because as companies, our core competence lies not in delivering CSR, but doing our business and creating profit. That is a basic motive. So when it comes to CSR delivering, we were looking at what is the kind of partners who should be working. And the third stage came where we started telling, no, I have decided these are the projects and we would want you to implement. Now, the fourth stage where we are today, at least in the matured organizations are, what does the community need? And how can I support that? It is not that I have decided this should be the project and we are going towards that, but more looking at from a perspective of what community would require and how do we support that project. So I think this is the journey that has happened, and if the companies are able to look at it from the fourth perspective, that is the best thing. Because if it was just to give money, it could have been done as part of a cess, 2% cess. But it is not about that. It is about how do you get involved in social transformation. And if you are going to look at that, then we need to look at what the community requires. Now coming to the NGO part of it, if you look at, I would classify the civil society into two kinds. One is passion-oriented organizations, other one is fund-based organizations. Now when it comes to passion-oriented organization, whether you are giving fund or not, they are going to keep doing the work what they have already decided to do. There are so many organizations, small organizations, which have been doing exemplary work. They are not dependent on anybody's fund, but they will raise fund because society also looks at them and then they contribute. Now there are the second category, which is fund-based organization. They are ready to do any kind of project. So many people come and meet me and say, sir, we would want to become your partner. I say, what is your domain expertise? नहीं, आप बताइए किस domain में काम करना है, हम करेंगे. So the entire approach for me is, I don't want to work with you. Either you should have a grassroots level connect, or you should have a domain expertise. Otherwise, what are you doing? You are trying to get your salary out of my money. I don't want. So the approach the NGO should look at is, how am I going to facilitate? And second thing, I have seen a lot of organizations amassing wealth in the name of projects. See, if you really are caring for the society, NGOs should not have buildings. Office building, I'm not talking about office building, I'm talking about the projects. The community should own up. Community should own up the projects. And you need to have an exit strategy. Otherwise, how many days are you going to stay there and keep on doing? And when will you convert the Sevarthi to do the Seva? If you don't do that, then you are making them beggars all the life. So we would look at people who have these kind of mindset, and that's what an organization or a corporate should look at it. Now coming to aligning of SDG and ESG things, as a business, if we don't align to these things, just doing it for part of CSR is creating a makeup. In your business, if you are not doing it and doing it only for the purpose of CSR, I don't align. I mean, I don't subscribe to that thought. If you are following ESG and SDG goals in your business, then automatically it will get translated into your CSR activities. Otherwise, you will have to bring in an SDG expert to work on your CSR, and company will be still doing whatever it wants to do. So I think I'll end with that.
All right, Kiran. Thank you very much. Some of those views were truly iconic. Now we'll switch from individuals to the companies or organizations that we represent. Let me kick off this by saying that at Vedanta and in the Anil Agarwal Foundation, we try and reflect the CSR spirit itself. I think for me, the biggest part of that we do is the very spirit of CSR. And that is about giving back to society. At Vedanta, what we do is we not only do it across all our 17 business units, but in the Anil Agarwal Foundation, we have two flagship programs. One is the Nandghar program, which is about the age group of 3 to 6 children and mothers, health, nutrition. These are our primary goals there. And then we have the Swasth Gaon Abhiyan, where we try to upgrade the facilities at the district hospital level so that they can serve the community around them better. This is how we also align with the SDGs on health and on education. Of course, also on rural development. So if the first part is, if it is a company, then the company itself must internalize the spirit of CSR. If there's not a feeling of wanting to give back to society, but using it as a tick box exercise, it's compliance, so we must do it. Over these 8 years or so, and Kiran, I couldn't appreciate that more, the 4 stages through which CSR has gone, is in fact the movement from the initial part that, hey, this is a new law, I don't know why government has passed it, but we have to do it, so might as well do it. We moved from there to understanding that today corporates don't see CSR as a challenge. They see it as an opportunity, whereby doing good for society, they also do good for themselves. And in the commonality of doing good, we benefit our country, we benefit our society. If that company is internalized, and that must start from the top leadership to the last person standing on the ground, if that spirit is encapsulated in the company across everything that they do, then you become meaningful, you become a responsible company in every sense of the word. If that is not there, frankly speaking, the company is a dead organism. Look at civil society. They are the ones who are at the grassroots. They are the ones who serve society every day of their lives. And when I was writing the law, I had in my mind this triad, that government at the apex, which is a facilitator, which is a regulator in some ways. But the base of that pyramid, the left and the right, are the corporate entity and civil society. In the synergy between them, in the partnership between them, lies the success of everything we do in CSR. And I know that when I began this whole thing, the trust deficit between the corporate entity and civil society was humongous. There was practically no talk or communication between them. Each was distrustful of the other. And one of the major things that has happened over these 8 years is that so much of that trust deficit has now been breached or bridged. They have learned to work in tandem. And I call this, which is another Chatterjeeism, as I say, the corporatization of NGOs and the NGOization of corporates. It's because each have learned from the other. Corporates now know what the scenario at the ground level is, what societies and communities need, because they now communicate with their partners who are the implementing partners. That's the single biggest success of the CSR movement across the entire space. With these introductory remarks, now I'll just pick on a few things that the panelists said at the very beginning. चौधरी साहब, मैं सबसे पहले आपसे ये प्रश्न करूंगा कि जयपुर रग्स की जो कहानी है, बहुत मॉडेस्ट, बहुत छोटी सी जगह से आपने इसकी शुरुआत करी और आज ये एक ऐसा ब्रांड बन गया है जो दुनिया भर में रिकग्नाइज्ड है। तो इस जर्नी में आपने जो 2-3 आपको सीख मिले हैं, वो क्या होंगे?
हाँ जी, देखिए, जब मैंने 44 साल पहले 5,000 रुपये का लोन लेकर अपने पिताजी से इस धंधे की शुरुआत की थी, तो कारपेट इंडस्ट्री इतनी बदनाम थी कि मतलब सबसे बदनाम इंडस्ट्री कारपेट इंडस्ट्री थी। एक्सप्लॉइटेशन, जो पूरा बिजनेस इज ड्रिवन बाय द माफियाज, चाइल्ड लेबर, केवल चाइल्ड लेबर ही नहीं था बल्कि जो क्रूअल्टी होती थी उसके लिए आप सोच भी नहीं सकते हो। तो मैंने इस बिजनेस को शुरू करने के बाद में मैंने देखा कि जो आर्टिजन था, जो घरों में बैठ के औरतें काम करती थी, उनको लेबर बना दिया। केवल दे स्टार्टेड वर्किंग फॉर द मनी। तो धीरे धीरे वो जो लेबर थे उनको आर्टिजन में कन्वर्ट किया और अब आर्टिजन से हम उनको आर्टिस्ट की तरफ लेके जा रहे हैं, थैंक्स टू बेन एंड कंपनी। बेन एंड कंपनी अब हेल्प अस ए लॉट। तो अब जो आर्टिजन है उनको आर्टिस्ट बना रहे हैं। वी आर गोइंग टू मेक द बेस्ट आर्टिजन प्रपोजिशन। आर्टिजन प्रपोजिशन का मतलब ये है कि each and every artisan of Jaipur rug will be converted into the artist and he will be connected with the world of design. और सारे वीवरों को हमने एंड कंज्यूमर से कनेक्ट किया। हम बोलते हैं वी डोंट सेल द कारपेट, वी सेल फैमिली ब्लेसिंग्स, वी सेल स्टोरीज, वी सेल एक्सपीरियंस एंड इफ यू बाई आवर कारपेट दे आर फ्री। तो हमने सारे वीवर को डायरेक्ट एंड कंज्यूमर से जोड़ा और एक हमने 2014 में एक नया प्रोजेक्ट शुरू किया, मंचा प्रोजेक्ट। वो कैसे शुरू हुआ उसकी एक छोटी सी कहानी बताना चाहूँगा। जो मेरी बेटी कविता है, जो मेरे साथ आई है, जब वो मेरे साथ गांव में जाती थी तो मेरे को बोलती थी कि पापा ये महिलाएं तो मेरे से भी ज़्यादा क्रिएटिव है, कुछ महिलाएं। तो मैं बोलता तुम्हें मैंने अमेरिका पढ़ाया, तुम्हारे से क्रिएटिव कैसे हो सकती है। फिर उसने कुछ महिलाओं को लिया और उनको फ्रीडम दी कि आप अपने खुद के डिज़ाइन के कारपेट बनाइए। और आज मुझे बताते हुए खुशी हो रही है कि उनके बने हुए डिज़ाइन को अभी तक 9 ग्लोबल अवार्ड मिल चुके हैं। दो 2017 में बिमला देवी, जो बिल्कुल प्राइमरी स्कूल भी पढ़ने के लिए नहीं गई, न कभी अपने घर के बाहर गई, उसने अपनी खुद की डिज़ाइन का कारपेट का जर्मन डिज़ाइन अवार्ड गोल्ड कैटेगरी में जीता और अवार्ड को लेने के लिए वो जर्मनी गई। मतलब तो बस सारे जो वीवर हैं उनकी मतलब डिग्निटी अल्टीमेट लेवल पे गई और उनकी जो इनकम थी, जो 2,500-3,000 रुपये महीना कमाते थे, अब 30% वीवर जो महिलाएं अपने घर पे बैठ के करीब 12,000 रुपये महीने से ज़्यादा इनकम करती है। इसके बाद हमने राजस्थान की 5-6 जेलों में भी इस प्रोग्राम को शुरू किया।
धन्यवाद चौधरी जी। मैं क्या बोलूं, आपने हम सबों को एक बहुत अच्छा उदाहरण दिया। बहुत अच्छा लगा आपकी बातें सुनकर। Chander, turning to you, you're a technology professional. And I have to say that one of the things that perhaps as a nation we really haven't done enough is that in the CSR space, how are we using technology enough? I struggle with this at Vedanta every day. Our chairman, Mr. Anil Agarwal, has always preached to us, told us day in and day out, use technology constantly, because you cannot bridge that last mile, the outreach to the last person, the last beneficiary. The secret lies in the technology connect. If your monitoring, if your evaluation, if your ability to deliver at the grassroots doesn't have a technology push to it, we're never going to get there, however much human efforts may do. And now with artificial intelligence, now with machine learning, the opportunities are endless. So I struggle with this every day, and I would be very happy to hear your views on this.
Absolutely, Dr. Chatterjee. See, first of all, I look at technology as an enabler that helps us to achieve and realize the vision. And I think Chaudhary Sahab, you talked about that. But every time that we get into these conversations, whether it is I'm advising my customers or whether it is as part of a CSR, I look at technology as being a great enabler for driving or, I would say bridging the gap and getting that, the richness that we are looking for in terms of the interactions, right? And this could be, the way Chaudhary Sahab said, it's about the experience. It's not really about the runs, right? So I think that's the thing that I see. So when we look at this, and I think we have been, as a firm, I think we have, when we started, and I think I keep repeating this word, sense of purpose, thanks to Mr. Chaudhary Sahab, but that gives you a singular focus on what you want to be doing. And I think when we started this firm 8 years plus ago, I think we started off with that singular focus as we'll do digital, right? Which means, as a firm, our ability to connect and bridge those gaps and give that right experience that will endear us to do these things at a much bigger scale than what we could do otherwise, right? So when you think of that, I think there have been a couple of initiatives that we have been on. One, I think this whole education and how do we drive, the next, I would say the younger generations to basically become more educated. So if we drive that, I think you will have a better nation and hence, a better quality of life, and then more people will actually be coming into it. So, I think a simple example of when, the COVID happened, I think our ability of our students, and especially the students in government schools, and their ability to actually get a learning was something which was highly impacted. Simple things like giving them access to tablets, giving them access to, digital learning, and enabling them was one simple example of an endearment. And when we could do this at scale across so many government schools, we could see the learnings come out very stronger. And then our volunteers contributing into it and, helping the students learn through the process and also training the teachers. The teachers were not aware of these devices. I think that is one example of something, a technology can enable at the grassroots. I would say a second big example is around, especially with the CSR, right? There is so much of like the civil service, civil societies organization, the actual organizations themselves all want to do it. There is organization which has a purpose and then the civil societies work at the grassroots. But how do you connect all of them, right? Where does the funds flow? How does it all flow together? Is it really impacting, the real org? And I think a technology like blockchain, and in fact, we had actually started implementing this, where we said any funds that comes through, can go through the different programs, and then use the technology to basically say, that there is a complete transparency in terms of how the fund flows. And this could be across multiples of units, right? So that I would say would be a second example. And I think a third that I would say, and then I'll give it back, would be a focus around wellness and mental health. A lot of impact, especially with this post-COVID world, people have gone into depression. It's not just big, adults like us, it's even children. So one of the things that we are also doing, and in fact we have actually launched a mobile app for kids, is around mental health. How do you focus on mental health? Like, it can't be questions, right? It has to be a game, gamify it, get them to engage either part of a class. But then what you start seeing is behavioral changes. Use that and let the parent know, the teacher know, that there is a potential of an impact, right? And this can be taken to other societies as well. But in my view, this is how I see technology playing a very important role. And whether it is blockchain, AI, or digital twins, there's so many of these technologies that helps us to bridge that gap, sir.
Thank you, Chander. Brilliantly put. Turning to you, Mr. Rastogi, I heard you speaking in the morning, and it turned my thoughts back to the reason why we actually wrote the law. Perhaps the single biggest raison d'etre of the law is this: can we get the best brains in the company to address CSR issues? And it was my belief that the best brains of the company resided in the board. And that is why this very oft-quoted Chatterjeeism is that we brought CSR from the back room to the boardroom. The CSR decisions today are not taken somewhere in the deep recesses of the company. They are taken at board level, and the finest minds in the company address CSR issues. And I heard you saying in the morning that one of the greatest joys that you experience is the planning to ensure that you design and development projects which deliver maximum impact on the ground. And this is another tectonic shift in these 8 years, and Kiran, you dwelt on this a little bit. Companies, and we in Vedanta see this every day. My mind, all of us in the group, are constantly thinking, if we have a project, this is the money that we're investing in it, these are our implementing partners, what's going to be the impact on the ground? Is it going to be lasting, durable, worthwhile, visible, measurable impact? And if that's not going to happen, just don't do it. So take the time to plan, take the time to work it, think it through to the last beneficiary. And if that has not happened, don't start the project. So I know that coming from a business background, how focused you are on impacts, the understanding of value for the buck, that is so internal to your way of thinking. So how does it operate in your company?
Yes, thank you. Before I answer the question, चौधरी साहब, मैंने जो सुना आपसे, मैं तो बहुत छोटा महसूस कर रहा हूँ. आई थिंक आपने जो अचीव किया है, हमारी एक ज्योग्राफी शुगर प्लांट यूपी में है, सीतापुर डिस्ट्रिक्ट में, उसके अराउंड मूंज क्राफ्ट, वो लीजिए मूंज क्राफ्ट इज़ ए प्रोडक्ट देयर. हम लगभग 250 महिलाओं के साथ वहाँ पे काम कर रहे हैं. आप बिलीव नहीं करेंगे कितना डिफ़िकल्ट काम है ये मैंने उनके साथ 2 साल में काम करके देख लिया. So hats off to you. So second, coming to your question, Chatterjee, now, I think as you said that when you are drafting this law, when you are enacting this law, you envisage the role of the board, and that has certainly happened. Within our company itself, the CSR committee meetings are not mandated to be held every quarter, but as a practice, we hold it every quarter. Okay, and the board goes into whereby from a 15-minute frequency about 4 years back, we have moved to a 2-hour slot for the CSR committee meeting. where board looks at the board members, with all their experience. Our board members have global experience. So they look at all the projects with their cumulative experience. They go into details of projects, analyze these projects, understand the impact, and that has also helped us in, fine-tuning these projects. We have also understood, we have also learned a lot. So, how best to, as you said, that, making sure that every rupee that we are spending is put to the best use. So this is where, the regulation has served its purpose completely, as far as, personally, our personal experience, our organization is concerned. So, and the second part is that personally as an organization, we have cement, we have sugar business. So sugar, as part of the business, we have a lot of connect with our stakeholders. Anyway, we have 3 plants in UP, 2 plants in Maharashtra. Cement, that's where we deal with about 250,000 farmers, their families. So a lot of connect. Cement, we are spread across southern India, northeast, eastern part of India. So a lot of geographies. So across these, in the sugar part of it, there is a lot of work that we, around 50% work we do directly, because we are there, we are there 24/7. Our people are there on the ground, they understand the problem. 50% is done through the foundation that we have. Cement is largely through they connect with communities, largely through the foundation and a lot of implementation partners. Okay, the people from the civil societies. So, the CSR that we are looking at, so not only board, even at the promoter level, there is a lot of, consciousness. Both our promoters are trustees of, Dalmia Bharat Foundation. So they continue to be actively involved into, deciding priorities for the year, we have moved away from, doing, I think Mr. Kiran also said that, spending money, trying to spend money to, spending money meaningfully. So we have moved from smaller projects to larger long-term projects, having more impact, longer duration projects, but having a sustainable impact on the, on the communities around us, on the societies. So that's what it is. Thank you.
Brilliantly expressed, Sir Rastogi. Very nice to hear that. Kiran, I know that on your shoulders rests a huge responsibility. And I say this with a great deal of conviction. The reason I say this is twofold. You are the one organization in the country who has always been in the top 2 in terms of CSR budget and CSR spend. So, in a sense, there is a searchlight constantly trained on how you are carrying out your CSR activities. As former Secretary of the Department of Public Enterprises, I also know that public enterprises are perpetually burdened with perhaps more intense scrutiny than anything in the private sector. And therefore I said that you wear a hat that of course probably has many feathers, but the thorns in that hat prick you all the time. So it's a difficult path that you negotiate, I understand that, and I would just like you to share a few of your thoughts with the audience in terms of what you said.
Yeah, being a public sector, we do have different kind of challenges. But I would say that these challenges keep cropping up. But if the intent of the organizational leadership is clear, majority of these things can be settled. So I don't see that as a major issue. But yeah, we will have to undergo a lot of audits. So there is always a fear of audits. And there is a, I would say, a slight hesitancy to take risks. But if you look at ONGC, we have been taking, working on a lot of innovative projects and I think creating a lot of new benchmarks. One, because we also have a larger fund, and two, we also have an intent to work on those kind of things. The challenge for us, I would say, is more from the mindset of people within the system. Because many of our ONGCNs itself will not know what is the CSR activities we are doing and why we are doing, because it's a larger organization. So last year what we did, I was pushing for this effort for maybe 3-4 years, and finally this June, we came out with an employee volunteering policy. I said, as a PSU, as a Maharatan, we should also look at how do we work with society on a voluntary basis. Not that I get a time off to do something, but from an intent, personal intent, how do I contribute? The moment you start looking at it from that perspective, then CSR becomes a smaller part. Because these people will themselves come from their experiences, and then they will be able to design wonderful CSR projects, which they will own it up. And the moment they own up, then the question of who is going to ask, how are we doing to do this project, the questions, the audit, all will get dissolved. So I would say that we have come out with a policy. We will start working on it. We will implement those changes and see. But yes, it's challenging. We have to be more, I would say, stringent in our documentation. But otherwise, yes, and I come from a private sector background. So for me, this has been a much more challenging because I had to adjust to the mindset of a PSU. I come from a software background, an industry background. So there it is all completely different. And here it's, yeah, I need to, I've learned that how do you manage both and work out.
Thank you, Kiran. Thank you for being so candid. We have with us on the stage Mr. Kalita, who's been with us. Thank you, sir, for being with us. You are a person in the public space. Your interaction with the public is your entire life. You have served the public with great distinction for many years, sir. We are so happy to have you with us today. And you have heard now all of us CSR practitioners speaking about CSR. We would be delighted, sir, to have some of your views.
Thank you. At first, I apologize because I had to leave the inaugural session early because there was a meeting with the Chairman-Rajya Sabha regarding the next session of Parliament. So I had to leave. The meeting was for 15 minutes, but then, you know, the traffic of Delhi. So I'm very happy to be here with you today. And this is the 9th edition of CSR Summit, which is being attended by the leaders of the industry and business, who are the CSR providers, then the non-government organizations, and industries, both public sector and private sector, the representatives of the civil society, and representatives and participants who have come from far, far places, including my own region, the Northeast region. I see some faces here. So at the outset, I must say that CSR is a new concept. It's not that the CSR being implemented at all levels, but through a procedure and which has been laid out by the government that at least 2% should, from every enterprise should come, and but it's not necessary that it is restricted to 2% because I have seen some public sector undertakings, they've spent even 4%, 3%, 4%, maybe 5%. So it's all depend on the capacity of the enterprise. So what I have to say here is our experience in the field, because we make policies, we make interactions with the grassroots, and we can see the implementation for ourselves. We are policymakers as well as we are the observers, observers of the implementation of those policies and the programs. One thing I must say that what is our main priorities that has been identified. The priorities are, of course, the largest populated, almost largest populated in the world, this country has a section of people who are deprived of what is called independence. Independence in their livelihood, independence in their day-to-day work, and independence from the poverty. So the poverty, elevation, and then health, education, and of course, the livelihood. These are the 4 priority areas where I think we are concentrating now. And government by itself has identified certain area of work where priorities has been given, like as our Honourable Minister in the inaugural session has said that 112 aspirant districts has been identified. Now you have an identified area where you can work and where these 4 priorities can be given for implementation of the CSR fund. Now, there are, since CSR is a new concept and that has come very recently and it is being implemented, since it is new, we have new experience. We have new experience and we have new experience of implementation. So it's not that it's completely new, because the industry and business has always played a very constructive role in the societies. Had they not played the constructive role, we have not seen all those dharamsalas for all those temples, all those gurdwaras, all those where the poorest section of people are looked after. It was a different concept earlier, but it was there. CSR was there. We can find that in existence even now. But now the concept has changed. A new concept has come. And the implementation has changed. A new implementation process has come. So I think where we all can play a very effective role, the parliamentarians, the government, of course, and the civil society, non-government organizations, they can play a very important role. As you have seen in a morning today, in the presentation of the report for 2021-22, the CSR box, has given a very vivid idea of how our CSR is functioning. Now, as we say that almost around 26.98% has been complete, is the final spending in the last year. And out of that, there are, in some region it is more, in some region it is less. And that depends on various factors which has been explained earlier. In my region particularly, which is one of the remotest and poor and poorest region, the northeastern region, had only about around 2%. Around 2% has been spent in northeastern region. But then we have to create an environment. We have to create a kind of situation by our own initiative where the more and more CSR fund can go and it is implemented properly. Because until and unless it is implemented properly, then we will not be able to achieve the targeted aim, and we will still be reading the same report next year. So I think here the civil society and the elected representatives can play a very important role because they are in touch with the grassroots and the people who are targeted, and as well as making the policy. CSR is also a policy which is being implemented now. And there, the public representatives at all levels, because we have a very robust system of public representation from the Panchayat Raj to the Parliament. We have a fairly large number of elected representatives from the grassroots who are elected directly by the people. And they know, they live there, they know, and they implement the schemes and kind of policies among the people. So my appeal to the NGO and other implementing agency that you should be more in touch with those elected representatives because they know what is required and where. So they can be a source of guidance for all of you people. And if I say that we are going to become the 5 trillion economy and one of the most large emerging economy in the world nowadays. So now, in one way, we are going to become 5 trillion economy, and we are the largest emerging economy. And then, if we go to the grassroots, people are still suffering, and we have not been able to take them out of that poverty, take them out of that lack of livelihood, then this will have, among the people in the world, this will have no meaning. So to have a meaningful environment, we must see that these policies and the benefits of these policies are implemented in the grassroots and in an efficient manner so that we come out of this and can be, today, India is one of the proud nations. We have a place in the global world. We are now respected for being the largest democracy. Even in the oldest democracy like UK, they don't have the grassroots representation. Even the female representation is not very old, very recent. The oldest democracy in the world, the UK, the female representation is very recent. I mean, compared to India. India, from the day of independence, from the day the adult franchise, female representation is inscribed. So this is for which we can be proud of. So I think where the pedestal where we are today has to be not only retained, we have to think new ideas. Now the fourth generation of fourth industrial revolution with the development of artificial intelligence, one of the speakers have mentioned, and so we are going ahead to that. But at the same time, the others, our countrymen, our poor countrymen, should not be left behind. So I think we should all not only target that, we should achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your very perceptive remarks. We're very grateful to you for gracing the occasion here, sir. So at the end, I'd just like to thank all my panelists for your wonderful views. It's time for this panel to close. A very big thank you to BOMIC and of course to CSR Box for giving us this opportunity. All the very best, and thanks for giving us a patient listening. Goodbye, good luck.
Thank you, panel, for the tremendous insight you have provided to us today. I would like to invite on the dais Shri Bhubaneswar Kalita Ji, Honourable Vice Chairman-Rajya Sabha. He has completed